Hello from World University and School on Monday, May 11th, 2026 at 10 a.m. Pacific time. I think it's 1 p.m. East Coast time of the USA. And as we wait to see if people will join this WUAS weekly business meeting, WUAS news and question and answer, I'd like to share a little news with you. Using last week's agenda from May 4th, I think, Budzuunga mountain range in Tanzania is what both blog posts begin with. Dear World University and School, community and networks, Universitians all, greetings, and with great new World University and School WUAS developments. Set of Twitter posts, Twitter X posts. Next step for at World Univ and SCH in hashtag Grow with Google WUAS program, building on at MIT OCW in 7 languages, in growing in all 200 countries for hashtag free WUAS degrees in main languages, with the Toolify AI article credible writing from Peter Norvig about World University and School, revolutionizing education with machine learning and AI, and regarding with a realistic virtual Earth, and potentially Sundar Pichai. So next steps for World University and School in a Grow with Google WS program, building on MIT OpenCourseWare in 7 languages and in growing in India in particular, for free WUS degrees in main languages and with a realistic virtual Earth. Peter Norvig, Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google and Alphabet, and enroll WUAS students, possibly this autumn, Tuesday, September 1st, 2026, possibly. Stay tuned. And see also this April 30th, 2026 blog post beginning Nanda Devi and the Valley of Flowers National Parks at the top. And regarding Sundar Pichai and India AI, hard hats, picture of, in a way, engineering hats from Google Cloud India AI Hub. And that's a hashtag Google Cloud India AI Hub. And Sundar, hashtag Sundar Pichai, Google CEO. Check this out again at the Nanda Devi and Valley of Flowers National Parks blog post. Next item, and on the WUAS Corporation for-profit wing in the state of California, our second wing, and you can see more about the beginning of it at worlduniversityandschool.org/academicpress.html. How will WUS be able to develop with Stanford MinePi cryptocurrency initially as a for-profit general stock company in the state of California, and even possibly with time, list the WUS Corporation on a stock exchange, such as the NASDAQ or the Silicon Valley Long-Term Stock Exchange, or multi-list, and regarding the academic press at WUAS in 7,159 living languages with machine and human translation, and the WUS educational services stores in 200 countries, and interoperating effectively with our first wing, with its U.S. federal and state of California tax-exempt World University and School legal entities. And you can read more about the beginnings of this with their tax IDs as well and the tax-exempt World University and School at worlduniversityandschool.org. And see also the candid profile for World University and School as a nonprofit, where Candid, formerly GuideStar, is affiliated with the IRS. And how might the hashtag Grow with Google WUAS program for World University and School, WUAS, potentially help with coding for these two WUAS wings, especially initially? Next item. So World University and School's open WUAS weekly business meeting and news and question and answer meet on Mondays. Today, next May 5th, 11th, 2026, at 9 a.m. Mexico City time, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Mountain time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, 10:30 p.m. or 11:30 p.m. India time, 1 a.m. Tuesday, the next day, Hong Kong time. But please check your time converter from any of your 24 time zones to join this open WUS weekly business meeting with Zoom URL in the open, its open WUS weekly business meeting agenda and news below, and in the following WUS blog posts. So the agenda and news for today are in the blog posts on both blogs, worlduniversityandschool.blogspot.com and scott-mccloud.blogspot.com, beginning with Zuwunga Mountains, Tanzania. So further, next item, World University and School is growing daily, and blog post by blog post too, and waiting, I think, for accreditation opportunities to further develop, and in seeking to deploy the full US federal toolkit. And could the closed in 2020 John F. Kennedy University in Pleasant Hill, California, in the San Francisco East Bay, morphing into the National University with its campuses in many cities in the US and online too, and the National University System, be an opportunity for accreditation, since the John F. Kennedy University is accredited by WUaS Senior, Western Association of Schools and Colleges Senior, which World University and School had sought to begin accreditation with as far back as in around 2012, around 14 years ago. And regarding the former closed in 2020 John F. Kennedy University's law school, which was accredited by the state of California and not the American Bar Association, ABA, and morphed into another university's law school accredited. So see this Thursday, April 30th, 2026, Nanda Devi and the Valley of Flowers National Parks blog post at bottom regarding this all further. Next item. And WUAS is waiting for money. And how also to grow an engaged and engaging research and wiki learning community with wiki teachers and wiki learners teaching and learning in these subjects at subjects. wiki.worlduniversityandschool.org/wiki/subjects, where you can go to a subject and of an academic subject or a subject that's creative in a different way, and potentially teach there by editing this page, or learn there. See if there's any MIT OpenCourseWare courses that interest you. Possibly add some MIT OpenCourseWare courses that are not there. And potentially also create new subjects of something you love or further another academic subject, and with time in all 200 countries' main languages for speakers of these languages. First in English, and potentially also in 7,159 living languages in these languages, and with wiki subjects again that you can create about what you love, and both online and from a WUaS multimedia room potentially. So how to build out this World University and School research and learning community, potentially in a realistic virtual Earth, and possibly accessible from a WUaS multimedia room or in digital glasses, for example. By realistic virtual Earth, think Google Street View at the time, with time slider at the cell view, molecule view, atom view, qubit view levels, or from a WUaS hospital multimedia room. And potentially where out of Canyon, California, 94516, where I hope a first one will begin. And see also the YouTube video, how to view Google Street View in a smart meeting room for potentially ideas for developing this WUaS hospital multimedia room that we can all develop in our own homes with time, and that hospitals too, teaching hospitals around the country and around the world can also develop to begin to aggregate, for example, data sources to further populate and inform this WUaS hospital multimedia rooms in new ways. So WUaS is waiting for money, and also to grow and engaged in engaging research and wiki learning communities further. All the best, abolitionally, a best STEAM, Creative Commons licensed open courseware wiki at World University and School. Hashtag WUaS abolition movement continues to grow to protect people. And read more about this in the blog posts from October of 2025, beginning Eagle Akia, in both blogs, worlduniversityandschool.blogspot.com and scott-mccloud.blogspot.com. And in WUaS, seeking to code for all 7.9 billion people on the planet to facilitate wiki free universal education, and free universal education with highest quality degrees too, building on MIT OpenCourseWare in 7 languages, and potentially at the same time to end poverty worldwide. Yogically, 8 Limbs of Yoga, friendly, NTF, NTQ, Quaker greetings, kind regards, Scott G.K. McCloud, President at World University and School, founder, president, CEO, and professor, presiding and recording clerk, loosely in the manner of unprogrammed NTF friends, Quakers. And the recording will be posted at the current main YouTube channel, youtube.com/Scott McCloud World University /videos. So further, and I just want to see if people are seeking to join this open WUaS news and question and answer. Agenda item 0. On the World University and School WUaS wing, the first of 2 WUaS wings, a 501c3 or similar nonprofit, and see the candidate profile for this, and building on CC licensed best STEAM OpenCourseWare, and which is wiki. And the URL for this is worlduniversityandschool.org. And see both exempt legal entities, tax IDs at bottom here. So agenda item 0, the minutes video as video recordings are posted for the previous meetings, weekly business meetings, session, beginning Uluguru Mountains, Tanzania, and check them out. They're in the Udzungwa Mountains, Tanzania blog post from last week, and regarding the, which is I think May 4th, 2026, and regarding the previous week, April 27th, 2026. And curious how also AI and machine learning process these videos as World University and School grows with weekly business meeting, with this WUS news and question and answer. So agenda item 1, Nanda Devi in the Valley of Flowers National Park. India AI hard hats pick from Google Cloud, India AI Hub, and Sundar Pichai. This is a Twitter post, I think, that Sundar Pichai posts. And regarding Free to Students World University, or with Free to Students World University and School in a Grow with Google WUS program, how best for WUS to interoperate with Google Cloud India AI Hub, with India's infrastructure, and for WUS to begin to offer free WUS degrees, Bachelor in AIAS, possibly to begin, and with India World University and School. So with 2 LinkedIn reposts too, again at the Nanda Devi and Valley of Flowers blog posts. And in these regards, a week or so ago, I received an invitation from Mahatattva Foundation in India, Gurgaon, India, I think, with 2 upcoming events, one this Wednesday, and then one 2 weeks later, regarding this foundation's, Mahatattva's foundation's, I think, engagement or involvement possibly with Google too, in India as a key online education site. Looking forward to this, and perhaps these invitations were somehow from Sundar Pichai to World University and School too. Agenda item 2. So could the closed JFK University campus, which turned into National University, still based out of the old JFK University on Ellenwood Way near the Contra Costa County offices on Ellenwood Way, become a partner for World University and School, and where accredited National University also offers online courses? Here's the National University website for the East Bay in some of these regards. So it's still accredited with, I think, JFK University's accreditation. JFK University Legacy Programs and Successors accreditation. While the main university was WUaS accredited, the College of Law was specifically accredited by the State Bar of California rather than the American Bar Association. Read more about this also in the blog post that begins Nanda Devi and Valley of Flowers. Agenda item 3, Stanford Continuing Medical Education, Contemporary Approaches to Upper Airway and Aerodigestive Disorders, from sleep surgery to voice and swallowing care, and Stanford ear, nose, throat experts up close. Glad to have attended this online webinar. Agenda item 3A, with extreme longevity and aging reversal genetic drug therapies emerging, first ones potentially FDA approved by 2050, which Harvard and MIT professor of genetics George Church is leading research on and heralding. How will these affect, for example, vocal change therapies per this Stanford Continuing Medical Education webinar? And say, planning for on therapies if we live to 150 years of age, or even much, much longer than 122 years of age, the upper known documented lifespan of a human. Agenda item 3B. Further, to Stanford, continuing medical education, Stanford ears, nose, throats, experts up close. Thank you and excellent. An integrative medicine related upper airway and aerodigestive disorders question, brainstorming wise. How does the practice of yoga asana and yoga pranayama, as well as a low-fat, ovo-lacto vegetarian diet or similar, change gene expression and therapeutically? So in upper airway and aerodigestive disorders, or the vocal cords in the human body, mind, how could it? And how could we study this scientifically? And even with a hashtag realistic virtual earth for ENT, ear, nose, throat conditions, in one hashtag realistic virtual earth, and in hashtag avatar agent electronic health records, where the Pegman in Google Street View with time slider at the G cell view and G molecule view levels to also becoming our electronic health records. Thanks, Scott G.K. McLeod. This is a question I asked in the Q&A during this Stanford ENT experts up close, Stanford continuing medical education webinar. Thanks. World University and School, medical schools planned in all 200 countries and in their languages, and with even humanoid robotic MD professors of surgery in the back of Toyota teaching hospital ambulance buses. Agenda item 3C. Further, how does the practice of yoga, asana, and yoga pranayama, as well as a low-fat ovo-lacto vegetarian diet or similar, change gene expression and therapeutically? So in upper airway and aerodigestive disorders or the vocal cords in the human body. I asked this of Gemini AI, and Gemini AI said the interaction of lifestyle interventions, specifically yoga and plant-based nutrition and epigenetics, offers a fascinating look at how behavioral shifts can signal genes toward healing. When applied to upper airway and aerodigestive disorders, these practices work by modulating the body's inflammatory and stress response pathways. 1. Mechanisms of gene expression change. The field of nutrigenomics and lifestyle epigenetics suggests that our environment, including what we eat and how we breathe, act as remote control for our DNA. Yoga, asana, and pranayama. Research indicates that mind-body practices can downregulate the expression of genes linked to the nuclear factor kappa B, NF-κB pathway. This is a primary master switch for inflammation. By lowering cortisol and oxidative stress, yoga helps silence pro-inflammatory genes and upregulates genes involved in immune function and cellular repair. This is fascinating new science regarding how mechanisms of gene expression change and with yoga and pranayama. Dietary influence. A low-fat, plant-based diet provides phytonutrients that can influence DNA methylation and histone modification. These processes determine whether a gene is turned on, expressed, or turned off, silenced. For instance, high-fiber, plant-rich diets are associated with the upregulation of tumor suppressor genes. 2. Therapeutic impact on upper airway and vocal cords. So further reduction of mucosal inflammation, vagal tone and vocal cords, regarding pranayama and the vagus nerve, laryngopharyngeal reflux, LPR management. 3, studying this with a realistic virtual earth. Gemini AI goes on. The concept of a realistic virtual earth for ear, nose, throat allows us to move from abstract biology to a precision digital twin, the G cell and G molecule view. In a realistic virtual earth, we can visualize the human body as a geographic landscape. Using the Pegman logic of Google Street View, a researcher could zoom from the macroscopic view of the throat down to the G cell, epithelial cells of the vocal cords, and finally to the G molecule view, the actual DNA strands and epigenetic markers. This is significant database aggregation with large language models will be important here. Avatar agent electronic health records, EHR. Instead of a static file, your EHR becomes a 4D avatar or an n-dimensional avatar, I would add. The time slider, just as a Google Street View shows how a storefront changed over a decade, the time slider in a avatar EHR could show the gradual healing of vocal cord tissue or the changing methylation patterns of genes in response to 6 months of yoga and diet. Scientific modeling. Using TensorFlow and machine learning, researchers can feed data from thousands of avatars into the RVE. This allows for predictive modeling. If avatar X practices pranayama for 20 minutes daily, what is the statistical probability of downregulating the IL-6, interleukin 6 inflammatory gene in the laryngeal tissue? This framework transforms healthcare from reactive treatment into a proactive visual exploration of the mind-body landscape. And I would add, interoperating with practicing yoga asana and yoga pranayama, where every breath and every meal is a data point in a global digital twin simulation. And 3D, see further questions that I asked Gemini here at this blog post, beginning Nyatanthes arbor tristis Gemini Re Yoga. So there is a hashtag on Twitter X and possibly LinkedIn, hashtag Gemini Re Yoga, REYOGA, and Gemini AI Re Yoga. Agenda item, next agenda item. 4. So this is to Magnus Magnusson in Sweden, who sent me a LinkedIn message regarding interest in an organization he's involved with in New York City, developing some aspects of I think, possibly realistic virtual Earth. So I responded to him, his very interesting messages, and in email too. Is this the question here? How to develop a hashtag realistic virtual Harbin, hot springs, as an ethnographic field site and for sociocultural anthropology theories too? Magnus Magnusson also worked with the United Nations and UNESCO regarding World Heritage Sites, I think, as well. Hi, Scott GK. I came across your work and would value connecting. As UNESCO's Director for Human Sciences, I positioned anthropology as central to its mandate. I'm now exploring how anthropological knowledge can be made interpretable by AI as current systems struggle with context and meaning. And again, I ask him, is this a question here: how to develop a realistic virtual Harbin hot springs as ethnographic field site, and for sociocultural anthropology theories too, and potentially for ethno-wiki virtual world graphy. Magnus continues. Thank you for connecting. In my previous role as Director of Social and Human Sciences at UNESCO, I worked to position anthropology, including digital anthropology, as central to its mandate of creating the conditions for peace in the minds of men and women. I'm now working with a small group of AI experts and anthropologists with an organization he's part of to address a core limitation in current AI systems. While they can identify patterns in language, they lack access to the structural, conceptual relationships through which disciplines such as anthropology organize knowledge, their theories, distinctions, and analytical frameworks. As a result, AI systems risk misinterpreting social reality with consequences for how policies are designed, markets are understood, and societies are represented. And here I think of realistic virtual Harbin Hot Springs for a second Harbin Hot Springs ethnographic book project, and regarding Harbin coming out of the 1960s and 70s as a countercultural place would be very fascinating regarding Magnus Magnussen's observations here. We are developing an approach to represent this conceptual architecture through semantically enriched knowledge graphs, allowing AI systems to engage with anthropological knowledge while preserving depth, context, and scholarly integrity, and positioning anthropology more centrally in an age where AI systems increasingly shape how reality is understood and acted upon. We are currently forming a founding academic partnership with a small number of leading universities, co-creating a semantically enriched knowledge graph. So a knowledge graph is what Magnus Magnussen is potentially interested in shaping, that reflects the conceptual architecture of the discipline, which AI can meaningfully understand and represent. I would greatly value your reflections, if of interest, Magnus Magnussen. And I replied to him, is this a question here, how to develop a realistic virtual Harbin Hot Springs as an ethnographic field site and for sociocultural anthropology theories too? And Magnus Magnussen had studied at Berkeley, I think in 1987, 88, many years ago, and may have actually gone to Harbin Hot Springs. And I haven't heard back from him yet either in regards to my reply here. Dear Magnus and friends, including Ed Smythe, MD, Sid Mazumdar, Byron Hahn, MD, PhD. Thanks for your great LinkedIn messages below on Tuesday, April 28th, 2026, and for connecting there too. In Frida Students Wiki World University and School, building on MIT Open OCW in 7 languages, and planned in each of all 200 countries for the free WUS degrees online, bachelor, PhD, law, medicine, IB high school, similar AAAS, and master's degrees from home and in these countries' main languages, all 200 countries' main languages, and in all 7,159 known living languages for people-to-people free wiki teaching, or people-to-people wiki teaching and wiki learning in open wiki schools and AI and with AI and ML, and in WUaS developing a realistic virtual Earth, emerging from a hashtag realistic virtual Harbin, hashtag hot springs, and regarding 5 Harbin hot springs inspired books. The first one, a sociocultural anthropology of Harbin since the 1960s and 70s, the other for poetry, and for ethno-wiki virtual graphy, a new social science and scientific humanities and arts theory I'm developing. and see Peter Norvig's incredible Toolify AI WUAS article, Revolutionizing Education with Machine Learning and AI, mentioning a virtual Harbin Hot Springs, and for, quote, the study of bliss and enjoyment in learning, something I've been blogging about for years, and wrote about in my first Harbin Hot Springs ethnographic book project, Naked Harbin Ethnography, published in 2016. Did you, Magnus Magnuson, visit Harbin Hot Springs when you were at UC Berkeley in 1987, 1988? WUS is in a Grow with Google WUS program too in some of these regards. And I'm curious how to develop a realistic virtual Earth Harbin further and regarding this research group I've been planning for years at scottmccloud.com/research-group.html. And search on, and regarding a research topic of ethno-wiki virtual world graphy in creating a realistic virtual Harbin Hot Springs, and a realistic virtual Earth cosmos generation. So this is about generating a virtual Harbin digitally, and which is group buildable at the atomic and molecular and neuronal and cellular and street view behavioral levels, and with avatar robotics, design, and printing of 3D place, avatar bots, and studying further in this research group, brain chemistry, and regarding A, loving bliss, and B, consciousness as awareness research, and modeling, and regarding, for example, modeling mouse and fly brains with AI, such as the Drosophila fly brain, working with the Drosophila fly brain connectome project, and with ethnography generation and field work, also importantly to actual Harbin Hot Springs, and possibly with your co-founded organization out of New York City or not. And here's the Harbin Hot Springs Gatehouse in Google Street View. Read more about this in the blog post beginning honeysuckle. Agenda item 4A. How best also for World University and School to potentially work with the United Nations and you, Magnus, and regarding your past experience with UNESCO, and as we build out a realistic virtual Earth for anthropology, for example. I'm going to move out of the sun here, I think. So again, agenda item 4, next agenda item in this question of building potentially a realistic virtual Harbin Hot Springs, realistic virtual Earth for sociocultural anthropology, for social science, and for STEM science as well. I think Google Street View with Time Slider. How best also for World University and School to potentially work with the United Nations and you, Magnus, and regarding your past experience with UNESCO. And as we build out a hashtag realistic virtual Earth for anthropology, for example, and how best also to grow and develop Sweden World University and School too. From Sweden, the Sweden Wiki subject page at wiki.worlduniversityandschool.org/wiki/Sweden, and accessible from the nation states wiki subject page. Planned in Swedish from the languages wiki subject page, accessible from the language wiki subject page. For free online WUS degrees from home in Sweden, in Swedish, building on CC4 licensed MIT OCW, translated into Swedish, and in a realistic virtual Sweden for STEM field sites and classrooms, etc., too, and possibly with UNESCO, the United Nations, too. WUaS has two wings with amazing potential synergies between them and in all 200 countries, and for speakers of all 7,159 living languages, and in WUaS seeking to code for all 7.9 billion people on the planet from here at World University, and see below, but more about this later. And all of this with World University in School in a Grow with Google WUaS program. See the blog post beginning honeysuckle in my blog, scott-mccloud.blogspot.com/2026/04/honeysuckle.html. Agenda item 5. We've explored this before somewhat, but this is regarding the IF1 protein, which is predicted to control aging. It's supposed to be in the mitochondrial complex of cells, and a set of Twitter posts in these regards. Since IF1 protein controls aging rate, and if US clinical trials, RCTs, take approximately 10 years, how best Michael at Forrest_PhD with George Church could at World Univ and SCH code a #realistic virtual Earth, #for proteins, #for clinical trials with our #avatar agent electronic health records. And this retweets Michael Forrest's Twitter post regarding the molecular structure, a diagram, a schematic of IF1 protein, drug predicted to slow aging, and which George Church retweeted twice on November 25th, 2025, and on his Twitter feed. See more about this in the blog post beginning gyrocarum oppositofolium in my blog, scott-mccloud.blogspot.com, and also in my blog. See more about this in the blog post beginning Lumbo nucifera, lotus flower fruit. Agenda item 6. How best, I think this is agenda item 5, actually. How best at World University in School with MIT OpenCourseWare in 7 languages to teach 8 limbs of yoga to #elite universities personnel too, and in developing a realistic virtual Earth for genetics, a #realistic virtual Earth for yoga, and in #one realistic virtual Earth in all 200 countries, and with #US federal government databases, #US Fed GOVT databases too, #yoga WUaS. Seeking to do this as we build out a realistic virtual Earth for extreme longevity, and regarding potentially this IF1 protein too, and with yoga here in a realistic virtual Earth for yoga, and at the cell view and molecular view and similar levels. Read more about this in the blog post beginning Thale, Cress, Arabidosis Thaliana in my blog from May of 2026, scott-mccloud.blogspot.com. Agenda item 6. How could an iterating brainwave headband in the future, streaming molecules as bits, for example, into our EHR, electronic health record, and back with yoga asana, help both aging reversal and longevity genetics in our bodies? I asked this of Gemini AI and see these great replies. Agenda item 1E6A, EA, brainwave headband or headset. Can I stream genetics to my electronic health record? And read the Google AI response. And EB, while wearing a variety of brainwave headbands or headsets, what effects of different yoga asana, such as shoulder stand, Salamba Sarvangasana, or pranayama in full lotus pose, Padmasana, can I stream to my electronic health record? Read the Gemini AI or Google AI response. And item EC, a George Church interview by Scott Pelley, which is only 60 seconds long, from 60 Minutes in 2019, where George Church suggests in this very short interview that aging reversal is potentially will be caused by adding copies of genes back into our body as we age, where as we age, gene function declines. So it's not editing genes, he says in this very short video, but it's adding copies of genes back in. And the title of this very interesting 60 Minutes interview by Scott Pelley of George Church is How Soon Could Humans Reverse the Aging Process with Genetic Engineering? Item ED, while wearing a variety of iterating clinical grade brainwave headbands or headsets in the future and doing different yoga asanas, such as shoulder stand, Salamba Sarvangasana versus pranayama in full lotus pose, Padmasana, will I be able to stream genetic data relevant for aging reversal and extreme longevity genetic drug therapies in the future into my avatar agent electronic health record? Digital twin from Little Pegman in G Street View, in a realistic virtual Earth 2, into something like how to view Google Street View in a smart meeting room, to be immersed inside, potentially for study and research, our human bodies as avatar agent electronic health records, potentially doing shoulder stand, Salamba Sarvangasana, or pranayama versus pranayama in full lotus pose, Padmasana. And also in the teaching of yoga in some of these regards with a multimedia room, a multimedia hospital room, and a WUaS yoga hall, and potentially for streaming from this WUaS yoga hall as WS multimedia room, as well as for aging reversal and extreme longevity experiments, and at the cell and molecules and phenotypes levels from the shop at 670 Ridgecrest Canyon. So could we then, from this WS multimedia hospital room, having begun to do yoga and potentially changed gene expression and cell expression through this digitally, and also potentially added changes due to aging reversal and longevity genetic drug therapies to our avatar agent electronic health records, then upload such possibly copies of changed genes back into our bodies with different effects on aging reversal and longevity within the body, both at the in targeting organs, for example, but also whole system-wise, due to different yoga asana. And further, while wearing a variety of clinical grade brainwave headsets or headbands in the future while doing yoga asana. And see more about this in the blog post beginning Nolumbo nucifera lotus flower fruit. Agenda item 7, searched on hashtag 8 Limbs of Yoga, hashtag Patanjali Sutras, hashtag Yoga Philosophy, hashtag Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. And it's not in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, 8 Limbs of Yoga. Is this an interesting elision? And regarding also hashtag consciousness, hashtag ethics, and hashtag yoga questions, and see the yoga wiki subject at World University and School. Also regarding hashtag mind body questions and hashtag yoga consciousness questions. And see this Google AI mode response to this set of queries further. This is also a set of Twitter X posts, and read more about it in the blog post beginning Nicotanthes arbor chistes Gemini Ray Yoga in my blog from April of 2026. Agenda item 8, Gemini AI Ray Yoga, question mark, hashtag yoga data sources, hashtag Angela and Victor's yoga, hashtag A and V yoga. What are best AI large language models for hashtag A and V yoga, Angela and Victor's yoga, hashtag inner body yoga with wondrous yoga language, and hashtag Angela and Victor's yoga, and hashtag yoga movements, and hashtag free yogic thinking, hashtag Gemini Ray yoga, and hashtag yoga data sources. And see the blog posts, see a number of links in this set of Twitter posts. And it's in the blog post beginning Nictanthes arbor tristes Gemini Ray Yoga from scott-mccloud.blogspot.com from April of 2026. Agenda item 8A. Ask Gemini AI, could Gemini teach these guided yoga meditations with chair yoga for 80 and 90-year-olds in a way and voice and language and vision that Angela Farmer and Victor Van Coten teach yoga in their courses? And for the restorative yoga explorations class on Saturday morning. Great response from Gemini AI. It gave 3 great guided meditations along in ways that Angela and Victor might explore in their yoga courses on the Isle of Lesbos in Greece. And read more about this further in the blog post beginning Nelumbo nucifera lotus flower fruit. Agenda item 9. Dr. J. Craig Venter passes away. He decoded the human genome in the year 2000 and founded the Human Longevity Institute in 2013. Set of Twitter posts about this. He was a founder, an amazing scientist who led the way in decoding the human genome first. And thanks also to the benefits of computing, developing, helping with the decoding of the human genome, speed up the helping of the Human Genome Project. So I searched on number 1, hashtag Dr. J. Venter, hashtag aging reversal, and 2, Dr. Craig Venter genomics longevity, and found some very helpful responses from Gemini AI. How best to build on Dr. J. Craig Venter's approaches with a realistic virtual earth for longevity and for genomics, and in one hashtag RVE, and with Tulify AI WUaS by growing World University and School with AI, especially. Read more about this in the blog post beginning Thalicres Arabidosis thaliana from scott-mccloud.blogspot.com. Agenda item 10. Next steps for World University and School in a Grow with Google WUS program, building on MIT OpenCourseWare in 7 languages and growing into all 200 countries, and for free WUS degrees in main languages, and to enroll students. I think Grow with Google WUS program, and read more about this in the blog post green hair streak butterfly from May of 2026. Moving to the other wing of World University and School, WUS, the WUS Corporation, the second of two WUS wings, the for-profit general stock company legal entity in the state of California wing, the WUS Press as well. So an academic press at WUS planned in 7,159 languages with machine and human translation. And regarding the WUS educational services stores. And with World University, read more about this at the beginning webpage, worlduniversityandschool.org/academic press, and see, for example, the tax ID at the bottom. Agenda item A, excited to hashtag invent the book anew at WS Press to publish 1 to paper and 2 to a WS multimedia room or digital glasses. Excited potentially to explore this in how publishing a book anew, inventing the book anew, potentially a second Harbin ethnographic book project, where we could go into a virtual Harbin in a WS multimedia room and soak there from our home bathtubs and be in a book, text in the sidebar too, or just soak there, meditating. So regarding how to view G Street View in a smart meeting room, and also regarding creating comics with Gemini AI, a great tutorial streamed from Bandung, Indonesia, about 2 weeks ago on how students could learn to create comics and books, possibly seniors and, for example, biology students. The presenter was a biology teacher at the high school level in Bandung, Indonesia, teaching his students how to work with AI in creating books, creating comics, both working with Gemini AI and the GEM program and the Flow program that are affiliated with that. Potentially, we could create a new second Harbin Hot Springs ethnographic book in G Street View with Time Slider in a WS multimedia room with Gemini AI and this tutorial, creating comics with Gemini AI. And this retweets Sundar Pichai tweet where a set of Twitter posts about inventing the book anew. Sundar Pichai writes, "Hello, how are you? Thank you, I love you, please." Some of the most frequently translated phrases of the past 20 years. Google Translate began 20 years ago with a mission to help people understand one another, regardless of the language they speak. What started as a small experiment has become a global tool that helps over 1 billion users every month. In that time, Translate has evolved from a simple pattern matching, to true understanding. In 2006, it relied on statistical machine learning to look for patterns in small word clusters. By 2016, we pioneered a shift to neural networks to move beyond literal word-for-word translations. And today we're using our powerful Gemini models to make Translate even more helpful. We are moving from text to fluid, real-time conversations. With our latest models, you can even use your headphones as a personal interpreter that preserves your original tone and cadence. It's an amazing experience. One of the interesting things about AI is that as we make progress, we begin to take it for granted. If you met a person who could translate across 100 languages faster than any human can, you would be so impressed. Today, one product does that for nearly 250 languages, and we kind of just shrug. Being able to say thank you in 250 languages is not something I take for granted. So, to the 1 billion who use Google Translate, merci, danyadavad, arigato, gracias, and thank you. Let's see what the next 20 years will bring. So, in that we could go into a realistic virtual hot springs in a WS multimedia room that we were creating a book in with creating comics with Gemini AI, for example, text in the sidebar, and in soaking from our Harbin warm, in a virtual Harbin warm pool from our home bathtubs, could also come into conversation with people in different languages, thanks to this Google Twitter post about Google Translate, which this tweet regarding excited to invent the book anew. The Twitter post from World University and School reads, excited to invent the book anew at WS Press to publish to 1 paper and to 2 a WS multimedia room, and regarding a second at Harbin book, ethnographic book project in potentially the idea is how to view G Street View in a smart meeting room, Igloo Vision, with a great tutorial for creating comics with Gemini AI. We could do so in multiple languages, potentially all 7,159 known living languages. This opens incredible vistas, and thanks to these AI and ML learning technologies, and potentially for publishing as well, and newly publishing with AI and ML, such as with creating comics with Gemini AI, and in potentially WS Multimedia Room as a second form of publishing, or WUS Digital Glasses. Read more about this in the blog post beginning Thali Cres Arabdidosis Thaliana. Agenda item 2, B, in this WS Press, WS Corporation, second wing of World University and School. How best for WS to begin to prepare for investors, angel investors, for example, which Magnuson lists himself as being on LinkedIn, and I think in his text messages to me, and potentially in all 200 countries. So develop this investors approach with angel investors, and regarding a Grow with Google WS program in all 200 countries. So could we, World University and School of WS, begin to prepare for investors and angel investors such as Magnus Magnuson, with World University and School collaborating with Sweden, the Google Sweden headquarters office, such that investors might be able to invest in the WS Corporation, for example, through the Swedish Google headquarters. I think there's one in Stockholm and there's one a little farther north than that. Agenda item C. Here's a little ditty I wrote from East Bay Municipal Utility Mud Greenwood, regarding seeing a little bird take a dust bath. It's kind of a haiku-ish. And I'm wondering how to publish such a thing also in potentially a realistic virtual earth for publishing. So taking a dust bath in the shade, little bird in East Bay Mud Greenwood. So it's a nature observation ditty. How to allow us to publish in new ways, say beyond publishing to Twitter, X even, or to LinkedIn. How to hashtag WUS publish in a hashtag realistic virtual earth, hashtag for poetry, hashtag realistic virtual earth for publishing. at the WUS Press. And with the video link to Dedi Efendi's great Creating Comics with Gemini AI tutorial, which is about an hour long. Check it out. Begin to explore publishing in new ways with creating comics with Gemini AI, and how to add this to a realistic virtual Earth for publishing. So that's the WS News and Question and Answer on Monday, May 11th, 2026. And I'll post this recording to the main YouTube channel at World University and School, youtube.com/Scott McLeod World University /videos, as well as to the main Twitter X feeds, twitter.com/World Univ and SCH, and twitter.com/WUAS Press, and also to the blog posts for today, which begin Mount Everest, Monday 5/11/26 and 5/19/26, Open Best Steam, Creative Commons licensed open courseware wiki, World University and School, WUS News and Question and Answer, and as well as to LinkedIn's and until next week, May 18th, Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. If you have questions, know of students who are seeking to matriculate at World University and School for free online degrees from home, let me know at president@worlduniversityandschool.org. And as we seek to grow further with Google, WUAS, and potentially in India, possibly this autumn, for online free degrees from home in English and Hindi and Tamil and Gujarati, possibly, and from your time zone. So worlduniversityandschool.org is the current beginning webpage, and academic press at WS is at worlduniversityandschool.org/academicpress.html, which is also the beginning of the WS Corporation for the physical digital WS educational services stores for books, computers, robotics, groceries, and think Walmart in 19 out of 200 countries, where World University and School seeks to be in all 200 countries with on-the-ground WUAS stores as well. And for an academic press, potentially print on demand in the stores. And until next time, see you later, and look forward to further conversation via the web in a variety of ways. worlduniversityandschool.org, twitter.com/WORLDUNIVANDSCH. Bye for now.